A championship trophy is collecting dust in a back room. An arena sits empty under the dim glow of flickering lights. A sport once adored by millions, now struggling to sell enough tickets to pay the bills. It sounds impossible, but there were moments when the NBA, the global basketball giant we know today, was on the ropes. And I'm not talking about a bad season or a disappointing finals. I'm talking about existential threats, eras when owners whispered about shutting down teams, when TV networks didn't even bother airing games live, when the league's finances looked like a fast break headed straight out of bounds. From the drug-plagued, money-draining days of the late 70s, to the lockout war of the late 90s, to the global recession gut punch of the 2000s. This is the untold story of how the NBA almost didn't make it. So lace up, because we're about to rewind to the moments when basketball's survival was far from guaranteed. Before we dive in, if you love basketball history and the stories they don't teach you on SportsCenter, hit that like button. It really helps get this story to more fans like you. The Dark Ages, late 1970s to early 1980s. Before Magic and Bird lit up the league, before Michael Jordan turned basketball into a cultural phenomenon, the NBA was a mess. By the late 1970s, the league's image was in shambles, TV trouble. Ratings were so bad that playoff games were shown on tape delay, sometimes hours after they happened. The drug problem, stories of rampant cocaine use among players made headlines, feeding a stereotype that the NBA was undisciplined, dangerous, and unprofessional. Talent drain. The merger with the ABA in 1976 brought in stars like Julius Erving, but it also came with financial baggage and too many teams competing for too few fans. Behind closed doors, owners were bleeding money. Some franchises barely pulled in enough revenue to keep the lights on. By 1982, the league seriously considered folding up to 4 teams just to stay afloat. Enter David Stern, then the league's executive vice president.
Sports as polarizing as NBA Commissioner David Stern. Depending on what city he's in, he's either loudly booed by tens of thousands or cheered as a conquering hero.
Stern saw the crisis for what it was, an image problem and a business problem. He helped broker the 1983 collective bargaining agreement, which introduced a revolutionary idea for U.S. sports, the salary cap. The salary cap, combined with a new revenue-sharing model, kept small market teams alive and gave the NBA a fighting chance. Still, the league's popularity wouldn't truly explode until the arrival of a legendary rivalry, Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird, and the marketing machine that came with it. The Lockout War, 1998 to 99. Fast forward to the late 90s. The NBA is flying high after the Michael Jordan era, but that success hit a growing problem. Salaries had skyrocketed out of control. By 1998, players were taking home 57% of basketball-related income, far above the agreed threshold of 51.8%. Team owners, claiming the financial model was unsustainable, voted to reopen the collective bargaining agreement. The players, led by the NBPA, weren't about to give up their share without a fight. And so, on July 1st, 1998, the NBA shut down. No trades, no training camps, no games. The lockout dragged on for 204 days, becoming the longest work stoppage in NBA history. Fans grew restless. Broadcasters lost millions. The All-Star Game was canceled for the first time ever. Behind the scenes, NBA Commissioner David Stern and NBPA Executive Director Billy Hunter fought a war of public opinion. Owners accused players of greed. Players accused owners of trying to break the union. The tension was so high that the entire season's cancellation became a real possibility. Finally, on January 6, 1999, with the season on life support, the two sides struck a deal. The NBA returned in February for a shortened 50-game sprint, cramming in brutal back-to-backs and even stretches of 3 games in 3 nights. The league survived, but the scars of the lockout lingered for years. The Great Recession hits, 2008 to 2010. The global financial crisis didn't just hit Wall Street, it slammed the NBA like a Shaq dunk in traffic. By 2009, most teams were losing money. The league's total operating losses hit $214 million. ESPN reported franchise losses totaling $340 million over the period. The problem? Ticket sales dropped sharply as fans tightened their budgets. Corporate sponsorships, a lifeline for many teams, shrank or disappeared altogether. Even merchandise sales, once a safe bet, slowed to a crawl. TV money kept flowing, but it wasn't enough to cover ballooning player contracts and rising operating costs. Even well-known franchises were forced into damage control, slashing front office staff, trimming marketing budgets, cutting player payrolls, and in some cases, quietly seeking emergency loans to make payroll. For small market teams, the situation was even worse. Some executives privately admitted that without intervention, they might not survive another full season. The downturn didn't just hurt the balance sheet, it hardened the owners' resolve to push for a stricter salary structure, setting the stage for the tense labor showdown that would erupt in 2011. The Hornets without a home, 2010. If the NBA was struggling, the New Orleans Hornets were drowning. By 2010, the team was losing an estimated $20 million a year. Attendance was near the bottom of the league, and the financial strain was worsened by the lingering impact of Hurricane Katrina, which had already forced the team to temporarily relocate to Oklahoma City just a few years earlier. Owner George Shinn was desperate to sell, but no local buyers could take on the debt. The threat of relocation out to Seattle, Kansas City, or even Anaheim loomed large. Then, in a move almost unheard of in modern pro sports, the NBA itself bought the team, effectively becoming its own franchise owner. The league stepped in to stabilize the Hornets, pay the bills, and keep them in New Orleans long enough to find a savior. It was a temporary fix, but it worked. In 2012, Tom Benson, owner of the NFL's Saints, purchased the team, securing its future in the city and proving that sometimes survival means bending every rule in the book. The Blazers brushed with bankruptcy mid-2000s. Even big market teams aren't immune to financial crisis. In the mid-2000s, the Portland Trail Blazers faced a storm that didn't start on the court. Their arena operator, Oregon Arena Corporation, filed for bankruptcy, severing a vital revenue pipeline that helped fund everything from game day operations to player development. Without those arena revenues, the team's financial footing grew shaky fast. Owner Paul Allen, one of the wealthiest owners in sports, publicly admitted he was considering selling the franchise, a shocking prospect for one of the NBA's most passionate markets. Rumors swirled about relocation, though contractual obligations to play in Portland until 2023 kept those fears at bay. Still, it was a sobering reminder that even with deep-pocketed ownership, a single financial domino can tip over an entire franchise's stability. Lessons from the Brink. The NBA has faced bad press, labor wars, and financial collapse. Yet each time, it adapted. The salary cap of the 1980s saved small market teams from disappearing entirely. The Lockout Compromise of 1999 preserved labor peace, at least for a while. The league takeover of the Hornets showed a willingness to bend tradition in the name of survival. Strategic marketing, global expansion, and star-driven branding turned the NBA into a $10+ billion a year powerhouse today. But survival wasn't just about fixing numbers on a spreadsheet. It meant rebuilding trust with fans, reshaping the league's image, and proving that the NBA could weather storms both economic and cultural. The history is clear. Today's global success wasn't inevitable. It was fought for, salvaged piece by piece, sometimes in boardrooms instead of arenas. It almost wasn't. Today, the NBA feels unstoppable, but history reminds us that there were times it almost stopped entirely.
And maybe that's the real beauty of the league's story, that it wasn't built on perfect seasons or smooth business deals, but on surviving the moments when everything seemed ready to fall apart.
Because if there's one thing the NBA has taught us, both on the court and off, it's that comebacks are part of the game.